Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this session in this live webinar series for Teams for EDU in Back to School. Uh, my name is Joaquin Guerrero. I'm a senior program manager for Microsoft Teams Engineering and Teams for EDU. And we also have with us Nidhi, that it's another senior program manager from Microsoft Teams Engineering in the platform team. So today we're going to be talking about integrating your existing SharePoint Online Sites directly into Teams. So we have gotten a lot of questions around this topic in the last few months. So we decided it was important for us to include it as a topic inside the series. So hopefully you get a better idea when we finish this session on how you could take advantage of those existing investments that you have already made in SharePoint during the past years, and how could you make a best use of them through Teams directly. So let's get started. So one of the main questions that comes out when we start the conversation around teams in institutions and universities, and then talking about intranets and SharePoint, is its Teams gonna replace my existing intranet? Is Teams gonna replace my existing SharePoint sites? All the functionalities that Teams has, could they do that? And the simple answer to that question is no. Teams, it's not intended to replace any intranet that you already have invested in, and even it's not gonna replace the SharePoint sites that you have. In fact, if you look deep into the Teams architecture and how Teams was designed, uh, Teams in part is built on top of SharePoint sites. So no, it's not gonna replace your SharePoint sites or intranet. Instead, it's gonna help you take advantage of the Teams momentum that probably most of your universities and institutions are having right now. So a lot of users are jumping into Teams as their main platform and main hub for collaboration and their one-stop solution for all the things that they need: their apps, their collaboration, their calling, their meetings, their third-party apps that lay on top of Teams, etc. So it's a really good momentum to play on top of that and bring existing SharePoint resources, existing SharePoint intranets that you have already invested in the past years, and surface them through Teams as a single hub for your users to discover those sites or internal intranets that you have. So at the end, what we want to help you with this type of integrations is to drive visibility your SharePoint intranets and web apps through Teams to your final users at the end, to add value and help them navigate through your information silos in a simple way in which they can get access to that information that is lying beneath those intranet sites. So how can we do this directly in Teams? So we have different options that we're gonna go through really fast, and then Nidhi is gonna go deeper into some of these scenarios, and it's gonna show you some demos on how these integrations will work and could work inside your Office 365 tenants. So here we have some scenarios that you might be familiar with, or could be some use cases that you already have in your institution or university. So, for example, you might already have a SharePoint site to address student clubs and societies. So each student club and society might have a SharePoint page in which they post announcement, news, pictures, events, files and they have the communications with their members, etc. So also student societies, student unions, etc. So that might be a scenario that you already have, that it has been developed on top of SharePoint. Other scenario that is pretty common in universities, it's a custom-made service desk. So in some cases, you could have developed your service desk or a ticketing solution on top of SharePoint using workflows, lists, and other SharePoint components. So that might be another scenario that you might be familiar with. You could also have news sites. So the communication department or marketing department could have some news sites to showcase all the official communications and activities in the institution or university to all the faculty, staff, and students. Uh, in other cases, you could have static informational sites. For example, sites with campus maps or sites with information from new students that are getting into the university or institution. Or all those sites probably are on top of SharePoint. In some other cases, you might have more complex intranet developed on top of SharePoint with custom workflows and custom services exposed for students services, for faculty services, or for staff services that are on top of that. You might be familiar with those scenarios too. Uh, or maybe you only have a bunch of file libraries laying in there in a lot of SharePoint sites that department use as file repositories to have their documents backed up in the cloud or in other places rather than their laptops or computers. So that might be another scenario, file libraries. Or maybe you have a school calendar on top of SharePoint, in which you have a calendar web part in which you consolidate all the institution or university special events or dates directly in one calendar on top of a SharePoint site. So those are some of the most common scenarios that we have encountered in most of our university and K-12 clients. And most of them could be, or all of them could easily be migrated or in, embedded into Teams through Surface them through Teams as a hub for teamwork. So what are the options that we have here? So the first option, we have different options ranging from really simple stuff that an end user or a team owner could do and going through more complex things as getting some development or custom development in SharePoint. So the first thing that you could do is if you already have file libraries, you could bring existing document libraries, surface it in an existing theme. So for this, you could just add a tab, including the SharePoint library that you want to surface, and it could be included as a tab in the theme. That's one option. You could also include, if you don't want to add an extra tab and you want to have only the files tab with all the files consolidated in one tab, you could include the cloud storage inside of the files and reference the SharePoint site inside there. So you could get the file library inside the SharePoint file library that it's automatically created inside a theme. So in case you want to surface it in a theme, you could do it like that. You could also bring existing SharePoint list or page included as a theme tab. So here you have two options. You have the option in case that the site was developed on top of the SharePoint site that it's automatically created inside the theme. So in that case, you could just add the SharePoint site tab and select the list or the pages that you want to include. That's another option. but it's probably not going to be the common because probably the SharePoint site that you want to include there has already been created before you created the team. So in that case, you could add it also as a website. You could reference the website. Obviously, the user needs to have uh, security roles to access that site. So they need to have permissions to access that site. If not, it's not gonna load. Uh, so those first two scenarios, you um, as an end user team owner could go through them really easily and integrate those SharePoint sites. So probably this will work for people that work inside a department and want to take advantage of what they already have. Probably they have SharePoint site for the department, so they could bring that files and information that they already have there into their team. Then we have a more advanced option that it's a custom theme apps with SharePoint apps or web parts and app policies for pinning. For this, well, as you may know, you can have custom themes apps. So you could create a custom theme app and include the SharePoint apps or web parts, and then an app policy for pinning those. So for this scenario, we're gonna deploy a GitHub template in a few weeks that you might be able to reuse and deploy in your tenants that will help you like ramp up in this scenario quickly. For this scenario, you probably need to be an Office 365 admin for the pinning policies. And if you don't have access to site loading apps, custom maps for your tenant only, you also will need to be an Office 365 admin. And probably you'll need to be a SharePoint admin to add the people that need to access that site or make it public so that anyone can access that site without any issues. Then we have the last scenario in which you could develop custom SharePoint web parts in Teams tabs using SPFX framework. So in case this is the most advanced scenario, and this for this you will need to be a developer, a SharePoint developer probably, or have developers in your team that can help you with this, that have experience developing custom SharePoint web parts. And you will need to be an Office 365 admin or a SharePoint admin to get through these scenarios. So this is the most complex one. Probably in this case, you want to reuse web parts that you have already done or you already have or own in your intranet, but you want to extend them to Teams and take more advantages of Teams, you could do that directly in this scenario. So as you can see, we have different scenarios ranging from low complexity to high complexity, in which you could easily get started today, bringing and surfacing that intranets that you already have and taking advantage of those investments that your institution has already done in the past and helping end users find information easy uh, directly in Teams, working as a hub for everything what that they need as a one-stop shop for their apps, their information, their intranet sites, etc. So now I'm gonna leave you with Nidhi, that she's gonna showcase some of these scenarios that might help you get started in this integration or bringing your SharePoint online uh, investments and sites into Teams to take advantage of that momentum that we have been talking about.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nidhi Shandelia. I'm part of Teams Platform Engineering, and I'm leading a work stream around app templates. These are open sourced applications that can be used to extend the functionality of Teams as a product and make it even more powerful for your custom business needs. So let's say in the education scenario, it's really common for new students or new faces to join the organization every so often. Onboarding all of these people on is a really tough thing. Teams as a canvas brings everything together. So I'm going to show you from a SharePoint perspective, if you've done investments in making those experiences or collecting all of that information in one place, how to bring that contextually in Teams so that everybody is on the same page, they can access help as needed. So for this particular scenario, let's say you have a team. It could be a team of students. It could be a team of leaders or a faculty. And you want to draw attention to an onboarding SharePoint site that you created for them. So let's say I have this new student onboarding, and it could be programmatically made available at any student team that is created in your organization. And adding such a site is really easy. All you got to do is click the plus button, select SharePoint, and then it would ask you which particular page do you want to pin. You can select the one that is relevant, and then bringing that information again then becomes really easy. It inherits the same look and feel, and then you can have a conversation around it. Let's say if the site were for new students, and they had a question about mental health or counseling, they can easily ask a question around here. Where do I go for counseling? Pardon my spelling. And then other folks can easily help and provide in the context of this conversation as well. Speaking of resources and surfacing information more easily, think of a scenario where you have a SharePoint list and which contains treasure trove of information, and you want to be able to surface that really easily within Teams. The thing with SharePoint lists is that they're buried deep within, and it's hard for people to discover where such information resides. So let's say if you have a team and then you want to look for mental health counseling within the institution. Bringing that information is really easy. Let's say you have this app called List Search. You click on the compose box, and you can just search mental health, and it would come up with relevant results populated based on the underlying SharePoint site. And then I can easily share it within the team itself. And I can pick and choose which individual fields are relevant for me. So let's say this is what my SharePoint list looks like. It's filled with some data that I have. I can select for my app template that, okay, show me the title, service name, and address and phone number for this app. And this all happens during configuration. And then that information then is made available to everybody in your organization to access. So surfacing that data really easily becomes like a piece of cake. Another use case is organizational acronyms. New students or faculty, when they join, each organization has their fair share of acronyms. A list search app template can then again be used for similar things. Let's say you have a glossary of acronyms and their description. You could easily put it in as an app called the Contoso Glossary app, or whatever. The cool thing about app templates is you can call and name and brand these applications the way you want. So this would be the glossary app. You search for your result, and then you can easily bring that data contextually within a conversation itself. So those were two integrations from a SharePoint perspective. If you liked the list search app template, accessing it is really simple. All you got to do is go to your browser and hit aka.ms Teams app templates, and it will take you to the full catalog of app templates. Today we spoke about list search. It's right here, but there are other cool applications that you may find interesting. Do give those a try and share your feedback right at the bottom here. The thing with all app templates, I'll very quickly cover, is they have their complete repository available from the same page. They come with a detailed deployment guide. The cool thing here is you just follow these steps, configure and customize and deploy a fully working Teams application like I showed you, without writing a single line of code, without requiring any amount of technical chops. So really good use case for building applications based off of SharePoint lists really easily. Thank you so much for your time today. Would love to hear more feedback and your thoughts. Thanks.
So we heard from Joaquin a lot of the scenarios in education where you can bring SharePoint Online into your team's environment. And Needy did an amazing job in really showing you from a technical perspective how you can do that. One of the things that I want to show you is something that we currently have in preview. And so as you can see, and as what you saw with Needy's demo, is you can of course bring in a lot of the SharePoint information already through tabs, and now also in a chat conversation through listserv. But one of the cool things that we also can do is bring in full-on SharePoint Online websites, pre-built SharePoint Online websites as a application, as a personal scope application. So what you see here is really an application in SharePoint Online. This is actually the Microsoft 365 custom learning pathways. And what we've done here is actually used App Studio, which is an app in Microsoft Teams, to visualize this within our Teams client. Now, this is preview. This is not fully supported yet. This is really to give you some ideas of what you can do, but pretty much what the possibilities are here is that you bring in a full SharePoint Online website, as you see here, really as a full-blown application into your Microsoft Teams. So the way that we're doing that is using an app called App Studio. And I'm going to show an existing one, and that way you can actually rebuild something similar for your environment. So in the manifest editor, we are going to look at the different applications. So we're going to use this getting started application. And what you see here is really the details of the application itself, the short name, the description, all the information that you want to bring in, going from your app URLs. And then here in the tabs, you're going to see that here we can actually create personal tabs. And this is exactly what is being deployed here, which is our personal tab. If you want to do that in a team, that's where you need a team app. Here, this specific tab is what you see here under the getting started. So when we go into the information, you see here that we have a name, an entity ID, and here's where you have the content URL. And this is exactly where the SharePoint Online site collection live. The only thing that you're going to see that we do a little bit differently is we're actually calling the Teams logon.aspx, and that is just because SharePoint Online requires an authentication. And so what we're going to do here is actually pass through the Teams authentication to that SharePoint Online website. We are going to add here the website URL as just as a custom URL. That way, when they click on the little globe, it will actually open the right URL. And finally, what we need to do additionally is add here the web app single sign-on. And this is a predefined unique identifier for SharePoint Online add-ins. So this is the one that you want to use with your tenant ID. And then you can go in here for test and distribution and actually deploy this in your own environment. This is the way that we're doing it. Like I said, this is in preview, so you can actually go in and test it, see how it works. But right now, this is not under a full supported model. So, but this is giving you some information on how in the future you can start implementing full SharePoint Online websites into your Teams client.